community, innovation in transportation planning, commuter services, clean fuels, and intelligent.
After the day's news. Live from NPR News, I'm Corva Coleman. The U.S. has set a new daily record for coronavirus infections. Johns Hopkins University says more than 144,000 cases were reported Wednesday. Nearly 10.5 million people in the U.S. have been diagnosed. Texas has more than 1 million virus cases, and California is approaching that milestone. The pharmaceutical giant GSK and a Canadian company called Medicago announced today they're expanding studies of their experimental COVID-19 vaccine. As NPR's Joe Palca reports, the vaccine is unusual because it's made from plants.
Medicago uses a relative of the tobacco plant to produce a protein that can essentially trick someone's immune system into thinking it's been invaded by the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. That protein is paired with a compound made by GSK that encourages the immune system to form antibodies. Preliminary studies showed the vaccine containing those two elements was safe. The next round will further establish its ability to induce a protective immune response and ultimately show it can prevent disease by testing it in tens of thousands of volunteers. Joe Palca, NPR News.
President-elect Joe Biden has named Ron Klain as his incoming chief of staff. NPR's Asma Khalid reports Klain was chief of staff to Biden when he served as vice president.
He also worked as a top aide to Biden back in the 80s when he was then chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He was an advisor to Biden on his two previous failed presidential bids. So Klain is a longtime Democratic operative. He has worked in some capacity for nearly almost every recent Democratic presidential campaign. But in a statement, he called this appointment the, quote, honor of a lifetime.
NPR's Asma Khalid reporting. The United Kingdom says that China has broken a key treaty. The UK says Beijing imposed new rules that led to the expulsion of 4 Democratic lawmakers in Hong Kong. NPR's Frank Langfitt reports from London.
Under the treaty, Hong Kong is supposed to enjoy a high degree of autonomy, which includes democratic elections until 2047. But the Chinese parliament has once again intervened, permitting Hong Kong's chief executive to expel lawmakers deemed to be a threat to China's national security. Britain's Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said this marks the 3rd time China's reneged on a landmark treaty between the two countries since the UK handed over the former British colony in 1997. The UK has summoned China's ambassador to London and said it would work with allies to hold Beijing to account. Most analysts see the expulsions as Beijing's latest attempt to crush political freedom in what has been a vibrant, westernized financial city. Frank Langfitt, NPR News, London.
The National Hurricane Center says Tropical Storm Eta is over northern Florida. It made landfall on the Gulf Coast of the state this morning. Now it's rushing across Florida. It will emerge into the Atlantic Ocean later today. You're listening to NPR News.
WJCT News 89.9 is sponsored in part by Humana, offering a variety of plans to fit your needs. Information at 904-303-2505.
It's 4 minutes after 9. This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. I'm Michelle Corum. It's Thursday, November 12th. 75 degrees right now, rainy and windy here in downtown Jacksonville as Tropical Storm Eta moving into north central and northeast Florida, although it is weakening some, and most of the areas affected will be south of Jacksonville. The storm is causing some power outages throughout northeast Florida as it creeps across the state. According to Clay Electric's outage map, nearly 1,300 customers are experiencing affected utility services, roughly 75 customers dealing with total outages, including in Putnam and Bradford counties right now. JEA's outage map shows just a few total outages so far in the Grove Park and Lakewood areas. Clay County schools are closed today due to the storm with no virtual learning. After-school activities in Clay County have been canceled as well, though government offices do remain open. The area is expected to see gusty winds and the possibility of some urban flooding due to heavy rain. But officials say they are not expecting any issues with Black Creek, which is prone to flooding. So again, from northeast Florida, tropical storm conditions for today, mainly before 3 p.m., a high near 81 degrees.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include iDrive with Remote PC, providing remote access to PCs, Macs, and servers from anywhere, assisting those working from home, and also enabling remote assistance for customers at remotepc.com.
Will there be a timeout on the Lot J deal before it reaches the end zone? Good morning. We're live from Studio 5. I'm Melissa Ross, and this is First Coast Connect. Thanks for listening. Hope you're staying dry and safe out there as Ada moves through the state. Just ahead, we welcome the watchdog group Our-Jacks as they call for a timeout on rushing to a close on the Lot J deal. Already getting your calls about this? Call us now. 549-2937. Then later, how local strategists say they flipped Duval County blue for Joe Biden. But first this hour, the latest on the coronavirus pandemic. We hit a new record high Wednesday with 140,543 new cases of coronavirus around the state. Nearly 6,000 new cases in Florida. And at the same time, the statewide case total has pushed the 7-day average of COVID up 28%. The bottom line here is this virus is dangerous and it continues to spread uncontrolled throughout this state and throughout this country. Every epidemiologist and public health expert that we have talked to is sounding the alarm about this because the public is so weary of this pandemic and the social distancing and the mask wearing that's required of us. But as hard as it is, everyone, we have to stay vigilant. That is the one message that I hope you all absorb. Stay vigilant because we are not through this yet. Okay, let's get to some other news now. A local watchdog group is calling for a timeout on Lot J. The group Our-Jacks, which first formed over the failed attempt to sell off JEA that sparked multiple investigations, is now urging city council members to study a proposal further. This proposal would give more than $230 million in taxpayer money to Shad Khan's proposed development in the downtown sports complex. A poll shows 70% of local voters oppose taxpayer incentives for the Lot J deal. Right now, we're pleased to welcome Our-Jacks spokesperson, attorney Audrey Moran. Audrey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you. Also with us, David Miller, Executive Chairman of Brightway Insurance and Vice Chair of Our-Jacks. Hi, David.
Hi, how are you, Melissa?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Give us a call about the Lot J deal, 549-2937. Emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJacks. Our Facebook page is open. Audrey Moran, let's begin with you, the spokesperson for Our-Jacks. This is a group that is flexing more and more, calling for more accountability over local government decisions, and you're really getting out there about Lot J, once again speaking out and urging caution on this deal. Can you explain your group's position and why you're concerned about rushing to a close on this taxpayer incentive package for Jaguar owner Khan?
Well, as you mentioned, Melissa, Our-Jacks was formed when concerns about the potential sale of JEA began bubbling up in our community. And community leaders like Michael Ward, who is our chair, and David Miller, who is our vice chair, and many others came together to say, what can we do so people have a voice in this important decision? And we decided that at that time that there would be 3 pillars we would live by: integrity, accountability, and transparency in our local government and the decisions they make. While JEA came to a good resolution, we thought perhaps our work was done. But once this Lot J deal came forward, we realized that the lessons from JEA don't appear to have been learned. We are rushing through the most significant investment of taxpayer dollars in a long, long time. And our question to the community and to our city council members is, what's the rush? Take your time, do your due diligence, make sure you answer the many, many questions that remain unanswered, and let's make sure we get the very best deal for the taxpayer.
So you're not necessarily saying don't do the deal. You're just calling for due diligence?
Absolutely right. I think there is a vision for Lot J that is somewhat exciting, and we don't want to stop progress in our city. That's absolutely the last thing our Jacks wants. But what we do want is decisions to be made smartly and in the sunshine and with the best interest of the taxpayer at heart. In this particular deal, we've got questions about environmental. We've got questions about the return on investment. Already the council auditor has raised the alarm that the numbers that were provided by the developer don't match the numbers they have. We've got questions about how this fits into the bigger parks initiative that the Riverfront Parks folks are doing. And how does this really help downtown density? And where is the DIA? Why aren't they part of this deal as well? Lots of questions to be answered, lots of homework to be done. We need to slow down and do it right.
Give us a call about the Lot J deal. 70% of you, according to a local poll, oppose your taxpayer dollars funding this deal. It's 549-2937. Let's go now to David Miller, chair of Brightway Insurance, your vice chair at Our Jacks. David, what about the comments some of the city council members have made saying that in order to sign off on this deal, they need to negotiate a little more aggressively with Shad Khan and the Jaguars, make him extend his lease of TIAA Bank Field, make the team commit to more home games? What about that? You're a businessman. Should the city be negotiating in this manner?
Well, we certainly should. You think about it. This is probably the biggest deal that we've, tried to think about as a city and put on the plate. And, for us to just take basically what was the Jaguars' proposal and just pass it off in a rush sort of way, it just doesn't make sense. We need to get the good information. We need independent analysis. And, we're thankful for those council people, Randy DeFore, Matt Carlucci, and the others. Recently, Council President Tommy Hazouri has, said, look, we might need to take a pause and look at slowing the process down. At the end of the day, there is no rush. We don't have a gun to our head that says we have to do this quickly. It's been in the process for years. And so, at this point, we have a one-sided proposal, and it just makes sense that we're going to get the best information we can so we can make a good decision as a community. As Audrey so eloquently said, it's not that anyone is necessarily, or at least our group is against it, despite the fact that most citizens are against it. And I think the reason for that is, it's the way that we continue to do business in this city, and it's become a habit, and it's a bad habit. And our group, Our Jacks, is really standing up, along with many business leaders, for really, more than anything, a change in the way that we do business here in Jacksonville. We need more transparency. We need to engage the community in ways we haven't, and we need to get good information so we can make the best decisions for us.
All right, let's go to some calls now as we welcome two of the leaders of the civic group OurJacks.com. That's the website, a local government watchdog group. They say they formed because they believe Jacksonville needs more accountability in its local government. What do you think about that? What do you think about the deal that would give Jaguars owner Shad Khan more than $230 million in incentives? That's your money. To build Lot J, a development next to the Jaguar Stadium. Lot J is currently a parking lot. That's why people call it this thing. But if built, this new development would be what is known as a mixed-use development, a mix of restaurants and bars and entertainment spots and office space and residential, and even another live music venue. And so we're discussing this with Audrey Moran and David Miller of Our Jacks. Lots of calls. It's 549-2937. Curtis on the north side. Hi, Curtis. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Melissa. I love your show. My comment is this. I'm in agreement with everyone that is stressing caution because there are so many other pressing issues for this city. We got areas of town that has been flooding. I'm 65 years old. That's all I've heard of, the flooding, Riverside, McCoy Creek. If they can't fix it, why don't they say that and let's move on? But they keep saying that something can be done, but they take the money and we have school kids don't even have breakfast and lunch. We have to argue about that with the community, with our leaders. So many other issues that is pressing this city besides giving a billionaire who don't need our money interest-free money. It makes no sense. We got the septic tank issue. We got all kind of issues that is more important than Lot J.
All right, Curtis, thank you. Audrey Moran, we're getting tweets about this as well. Here's one from a listener: with Tropical Storm Eta bearing down on us, you might find out once again how effective that stormwater tax really is. Flooding versus Lot J, one is more important than the other. What about this idea, Audrey, that the city's priorities are out of whack if we are not allocating enough money for all of the various needs around town, but we can spend hundreds of millions in a pandemic and a recession for this development?
It's a fair question, and it's on the minds of citizens in every neighborhood across our community. We saw from the poll that 70% of people are opposed to this project, and there are many reasons why. The priorities of our city, the priorities of our elected officials, are we being heard? Are they listening to the people that they represent? I noticed in the newspaper today, Tommy Azzurri is quoted as saying the city council has a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, and they do. And so the questions that are being raised about priorities are something that the city council must pay attention to, that Lenny Curry and his team should pay attention to. And we hope that with our Jacks and the other voices in this community speaking out and speaking up, hopefully we'll be heard.
549-2937. Michelle in Jacksonville. Hi, Michelle. Hello, go ahead.
Hi, I'm calling in because I noticed recently there was something on the radio that came on it saying that the U.S. government had denied that census workers were told to fudge information, and that's an all-out lie. The census, whoever said that from the census representing that.
Well, we're talking about Lot J, though, Michelle, not the census today.
No, I was put on. I know, but I'm put on because of Jacksonville. This is a Jacksonville situation, okay? But I know you're talking about Lot J, but they put me on, so I don't know.
Okay. Do me a favor. I'm going to put you back on hold and have our screener get your number, and we'll follow up with you later. Okay? Thanks, Michelle, because we do want to keep the conversation to the topic. Lots of tweets, emails, Facebook comments about Lot J. Here is one from another listener on Twitter. If the city is looking to give out hundreds of millions of dollars, how about supporting local businesses that are open now and need support for this year's taxes due to lost revenue from COVID closures? Business and jobs are at stake now. David Miller, I think the timing of this is what is sitting so poorly with so many voters out there. If the city were flush with cash, if times were great, it might not be as controversial, but we're not there. David Miller. Hey, David, go ahead.
No, I appreciate it, and it's a great point. I think so much of this really comes down to engagement. I can't remember the last time we have had a series of community conversations about important issues. We just got out of on the tail end of a presidential election, and one of the best things about local government is that it really it's not about it should never be about politics, left or right. It should be about what are our priorities, how can we as a community make really good decisions, and how can we use the people in our community to their fullest. How can they engage, and how can we, ask those questions? I think it's really important. And, the last time I recall doing it, we did it over the HRO. There were community conversations. And, I just, when you talk about all these different issues, it's really about community priorities. And I don't know that the administration, for instance, has a great sense of what the community priorities are and what they should be. More information is good, and more opportunities to empower people to be able to speak their mind.
Nick on the north side.
Melissa,
Hey, go ahead, Audrey.
Well, I just wanted to add one of the wonderful things that came out of the JEA debacle was that people all across our city realized their voice had power. They realize as they stand up and speak out that things can and will change. And I think for a long time in our city, we've had this malaise, sort of like there's nothing I can do. The syndicate runs the city and I just have to shake my head. Well, we learned from the JEA and getting that sale stopped that the people's voice does have power, and it can have power again. And that's when our government is going to be the very best government it can be, when it listens to its constituents.
And you know, Audrey, those of us in the local political or media class know what you mean when you refer to the syndicate. Can you explain for all the normies out there, when we talk about the syndicate in Jacksonville, Florida, who is that?
It was a term coined by Nate Monroe, who does political columns all the time in the Times-Union. And my understanding is he refers to it as the people who control things behind the scenes, the big money donors to candidates who then have specific requests that they expect to be followed.
Yeah, and not to knock Nate Monroe, but I think he stole it from the late Marvin Lewis, who used to perform the role that you and RJAX are performing today, acting as an independent watchdog. But I mean, the reason I bring this up is this dynamic has been around in this city for a long time.
It has.
Yeah, I mean, Marvin Lewis was talking about the syndicate a generation ago.
Well, and it's time we change that. There are a lot of good people who support candidates. There's a lot of really wealthy citizens that do tremendous good in our community. Look at Wayne and Dolores Weaver. But what we don't want is a handful of powerful people controlling the destiny of our community. That is everyone's responsibility, to speak up about what their priorities are and to make sure their elected officials listen.
Nick on the north side. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, I've been trying to make this point for a couple of years now, whenever this discussion comes up about this area down there, which is now Lot J is what we're calling it now, developing it. If you look at a map of Northeast Florida and you look at the St. Johns River, the St. Johns River is an inland water lagoon. In other words, it's tied to whatever happens to the ocean is going to happen to the river, to the quote-unquote river. If you look at a map, you can see that in 50 or 75 years, and somebody at the University of Florida did a very good study about this, about water piling up along the eastern seaboard faster with sea level rise than anywhere else in the Atlantic. You can see, if you look at a map, that San Marco, Lot J, and that whole area where the river makes that bend is going to be underwater in about 50 years, 75 years. Why in the world would we think about spending millions and millions of dollars on something that's going to be gone, that our children and grandchildren will never be able to use? And by the way, there's a report that came out about the money that Donald Trump owes to all these different municipalities around North America for money that he was that he owed for his campaign rallies. We would have been on that list too had we had that stupid convention here. But luckily, cooler heads prevailed. But this is the kind of leadership we're talking about. We're talking about people who keep making stupid decision after stupid decision after stupid decision with no forward thinking, with no progressive ideals in mind. And we're about to make the same mistake again. And I just can't, it's just hard for me to sit back and watch the city do this to itself. The city that I grew up in and have lived in for most of my adult life. It's just a shame.
All right, Nick. All right, David Miller of Brightway. You know, real estate developers are not necessarily known for long-term thinking. They go in, they make a quick score, and they get out. The guys behind Lot J, they don't care that it's on the waterfront or just off of it, and that it could very well be underwater in several decades. So we're talking about short-term thinking versus long-term thinking in apprising what's the best use of our taxpayer money. What about Nick's point?
Yeah, no, it's a super point. It comes down to what are our priorities and how do we think about things? Ideally in business, you want the best people who are best qualified and have the to decide and make important decisions for you. The question for us is, as a community, is our best and brightest Brian Hughes. I mean, I just use that as an example.
He's a member of the mayor's staff. I just wanted to clarify what you meant by that.
And the person who was largely in charge of negotiating this deal for us. I think, and the architect, many of the different kinds of things that the administration has been pushing as well. I think we need to say, when we look at these things, people are our greatest resource. How do we tap the smartest, the best, and the brightest in our community to help us make the best decisions? I think that's one of the things I heard the caller say. Why are we making stupid, short-sighted decisions? And it's a great question. People are our greatest resource. So, the things that we are advocating, we're advocating to your callers and we're advocating to our neighbors to engage. And don't just sit idly and have a feeling like this syndicate or this is the way things have always been. Today's a new day. And we're seeing what's possible. We saw it in the turn back of the JEA deal, the debacle that we were going to face. And there's so much good happening in our community. There's so many people who want to come to this community and invest and make it better. We're just trying to stand up and make sure that the culture is one here that supports the best idea winning, rather than just the most popular person or that sort of thing.
Well, there are so many more people waiting in the queue, and unfortunately, we don't have time to get to all of you. Lots of comments on social media, too. Thanks for everyone who weighed in. If you didn't get on the air, you can certainly get on the phone to your city council representative. If you're for or against this deal, just go to coj.net and find the phone number and email address. Let them know your thoughts. I want to thank David Miller, chair of Brightway, and attorney Audrey Moran, both with the civic watchdog group Our Jacks. Thank you both so much for being with us.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Well, much more still ahead. Later, we'll take a listen to all of the local artists spinning up beautiful music in the new Audio Void compilation that comes to you from Void Magazine. That's later. But up next.
For what we were doing, from chasing absentee ballots to engaging voters to having mobile billboard trucks riding through the city, we believe that if we won Duval, there was no way we would lose Florida.
Flipping Duval from red to blue, at least at the top of the ticket. A look at how it was done next.
Join WJCT for Voices of the First Coast, one small step across the political divide, a nationwide project with the goal of breaking down boundaries between strangers. At this free event, you'll hear from StoryCorps founder Dave Isay, listen to excerpts from select conversations recorded across the First Coast, and engage in discussion with participants. Join us on Thursday, November 19th at 7 p.m. This virtual event is free, but reservations are required. Information at wjct.org/events.
Welcome back. Well, this election, President Trump won Florida by more than 3 points, and Republicans made gains across the state. One notable exception was Duval County. Activists here on the ground say their strategy was key to flipping Duval from red to blue at the top of the ticket, handing the county to Joe Biden. I spoke about how they did it with First Coast political strategist Philip Singleton.
Philip, good to talk to you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So there's been a lot of second guessing and finger pointing in the wake of the election when it comes to the performance of Florida Democrats. All over the state, Democrats lost ground with a few exceptions. And one of the areas where people have looked to as going against that trend is Duval County, at least in terms of the presidential outcome. Duval County flipped blue, choosing Joe Biden for president. As a political strategist in the state, you've been speaking out about this in recent days. I want to begin by asking you, how did strategists like yourself work to flip this GOP stronghold into the Democratic column for Joe Biden?
Honestly, being very transparent, it was really collecting all the Duval Democratic minds together. And for a nucleus of realizing that we weren't going to get any resources from the party that could really engage the vote, that we were, I would say honestly, promising that were underdelivered. And I think we really just said, you know what, this comes down to us. That honestly, the leadership of Congressman Lawson, who said, Philip, just go ahead and give Duval, make it all happen. And anything you need, let me know, and he'll make it happen. Working with Minority Leader Audrey Gibson, State Rep Tracy Davis, State Rep-elect Angie Nixon, Consultant Cialis Jackson, Joey McKinnon, and Daniel Henry, Duval County DEC Chair, Obi, who was working with the Biden campaign as well, and other individuals who I'll leave nameless for now, but very key conversations, very strategic on how we move the needle. And we really believe collectively as a team that for what we were doing, from chasing absentee ballots to engaging voters to having mobile billboard trucks riding through the city that had the advertisements of the candidates through other coordinated efforts, and really just engaging voters overall was the message and the plan. And we knew that we believed that if we won Duval, there was no way we would lose Florida. And we were hearing about the lack of participation in voter turnout throughout the state, but we knew exactly where it stemmed from, which is always from a perspective of, honestly, the same consultants giving the same advice on where resources need to be designated. But if this was any game, if this was the NBA, if this was the NFL, if this was playing chess, or if anybody knew how to play the game of spades, you have to be able to use your strongest resource wisely. And that's what Democrats have failed to do over a decade.
You're saying Democrats all across Florida at the statewide level?
Yes, at a statewide level they have.
So what do you think needs to be done within your party?
I think, honestly, looking at the blueprint of what works for Duval County, because I'm from Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, spent a good chunk of my time in Tallahassee. I went to school in Tallahassee at the Florida A&M University and fell into politics, and then ended up here in Jacksonville 2 years ago. And really, I think the blueprint set here is understanding that Duval County by itself is really 4 counties in one. And understanding the dynamics that it has.
And what are the, wait a minute, what are the 4 counties of Duval County?
The 4 counties, I would honestly say, you have a little bit of the Hillsborough, St. Pete area, St. Pete, Tampa. You have a nice chunk of the Orlando central rural area that has that. You do have a good mix of Broward County, which would be synonymous to some parts of Duval, and a little bit of Miami, because the beaches offer some intriguing, I wouldn't say like South Beach, but the dynamic of voters that are there are very intriguing. And when you look at the rural mass that you can drive, and honestly, lobbying in the Florida legislature as well, I'll spend 4 days in Tallahassee, 3 days Jacksonville, and vice versa. And during the campaign, it's the same schedule. And I'll hit the Duval County line a good hour and 15 minutes before I get home.
Yeah, right.
And the issue ends up being, as my wife and I moved here 2 years ago in 2018, we didn't plan on moving to Duval County. We were going home for the holidays in Palm Beach. We live on the north side, close by the airport. And when it took us roughly an hour and a half to get out of Duval County, I said to my wife, I said, you know what? This is worse than South Florida only because I can get from North Palm Beach Gardens, to downtown Miami in an hour with good traffic on the Turnpike or 95. But in Duval County, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And
that gives you an idea of how big it is. It's big.
Right. Right, and then the aspect of the political strategist who made offset Duval to say, it's only a Republican stronghold, which it has been, and hopefully since I've been here, we haven't turned red, and I don't plan on, hopefully working together making it go red again. But I think the aspect of understanding the nature of what happened here and how we were able to stop the red firewall in Duval County, I think is something that can be learned from not only a federal, state, local level, but Democrats across the state, to where we can know how to micro-target and we can go into the communities. Because respectfully, even in conversations, when I was looking at first-time black voters across the state and first-time voters in general, the most surprising thing to some people were I had more first-time black voters in the Ocean Way area, 703, 205, or 215, I believe, those precincts, more first-time black homeowners there. And you would think, from me not knowing the history or me learning the history of Jacksonville and the history of the Ocean Way area, some people would look at the data and say, what do you mean? But there are a lot of homeowners there, and there's a lot of homeowners here in Jacksonville. And even to the fact, sorry for rambling here, but doing data, I shared with the fact that within 3 zip codes in Jacksonville, 32208, 32209, and 32218, you have 4% of the black homeowners in the entire state of Florida. 3.5% of black supervoters, and 3% of black degree holders in the entire state. And when just looking by zip code, county, you can differentiate things precinct by precinct, it can go. But when you look at zip code specifically, and you look at Jacksonville, there's a mecca of not only black Democrats or Democrats here, progressive Democrats as well. There's a stronghold of Republicans here as well. But this is, I would say, a vibrant cause through the St. Johns River, through the rest of this state, of what the political and economic power is in this state. And I think that as progressive and diverse as this county is growing, we'll continue to see maybe this be a swing county, but I do believe that there will be trenches, and this will be a focal point instead of Dade County as where this battle is. Because honestly, it's not a battle of the I-4 corridor. This is a battle of I-95.
Interesting. Now, let me ask you as a follow-up. You and your group of strategists and office holders here in Jacksonville were successful in flipping the county blue for Joe Biden. But at the same time, virtually all of the down-ballot races went to Republicans. What is your takeaway on that?
I think it's honestly the fact of party leadership not really looking at the local races from city council to even state house races, or where we can be competitive. That there are good races where it's not to say, hey, we need to knock a Republican out or whatever. Say, hey, let's put a good candidate up. Let's support a candidate who has the courage to serve their community. And if we have to build a profile around them, if we have to help them get name ID so we can get a good candidate out there for the voters to make an educated decision, say, you know what, it may not be about Republican, Democrat. It may be about the right choice. And even if they do vote Republican, maybe it's a good Republican who can work both sides of the aisle to really care about the people, because this is really what it's all about. And really the down ballot issue ends up coming back to the party because they only want to focus on the top of the ticket. And the top of the ticket is, hey, it's like you have the queen in chess. You're moving your queen all over the board. You're taking all the pieces, but just because you have the queen taking all the pieces don't mean you can win. Or it's any other sports analogy that I could probably pull out better, but I don't want to take the whole conversation with that. But it's really the fact that they're not investing in the base of what they need. And by the time they realize it, you look at Tamiette Thomas's race and that state house race, there was going into the primary, I don't think she had more than $10,000. And I don't believe she had a primary opponent. Even if she did, it was a fact of there was no investment. There's nothing to say, you know what, let's at least give her a fighting chance in this race. Let's give Nicole Ham a fighting chance in this race. There's nothing there, and I think it could be, people scared of a firewall or any backfire politically, but it's like, no, this isn't about Democrat, Republican. This is about making sure the voters decide. And if the Democrats put a package together that can help down-ballot candidates, it can really spur the top of the ballot win. And that's really where they messed up. And you've seen it in the Alex Sink race. You've seen it in the Kendrick Meek for Senate race. You've seen it in the Hillary Clinton race. You've seen it in the Andrew Gillum race. And all of a sudden, 2020 comes, and we try to flip the anomaly. Yes, the down ballot didn't work, Biden came through, but there's something to learn. There's something to sit back and really see, like, okay, what actually works? And when you really analyze it, it's the same problem. We keep running a halfback dive, running up the middle. The defense is stopping us, but we're not trying to play action or throw a deep ball or mix it up. We're trying to do the same thing over and over again, and it's not working. And the issue is with the down ballot candidates, the state party doesn't want to actually micro-target into these communities or do a focus group into people who aren't voting to understand what we need to say to get people engaged.
And after these losses around the state, you don't think that there will be a reckoning and a change in strategy like what you're recommending?
Well, what I think is this. If this was the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, or any other professional sport, and you have to look at politics like a professional sport, the people who have been advising the Democratic Party would not even be allowed on ESPN to give advice right now off the record they've been given and what they've done. They do not know what they're doing. And it doesn't matter if they are, some of them, not all, some elected leaders, some others who just want to build their political clout. They want to really take, I have to answer, but where's your track record? Because honestly, if you're bringing Phil Jackson into your organization, you know that you're going to have a championship organization. If you bring LeBron James in, you know you're going to have a championship pedigree organization. There are homegrown, champion-driven talent in this state that do not get the opportunity to voice their frustrations and concerns, and for them to be actually listened to, put in positions, the next campaign to not only be competitive in a gubernatorial race, but also in a U.S. Senate race, and then the next presidential race, and then the next gubernatorial race, and then the next president. There's no base, and because everybody has an answer of trying to boost their career, and they're not even trying to put up a record of winning. They just want to fatten their pockets and push forward. It's like, that's the problem. If we're going to be out there knocking on doors, making communication plans, losing sleep, it ends up being a fact of, what are we really here for? Are we out here to win, or are we just out here to say, you know what, we'll talk about democracy, but we don't really care? Because that's really what's happening right now.
Not mincing words. Well, Philip Singleton, it's fascinating to speak with you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts about how it all went down in Florida on election night. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
A quick correction. Earlier, I referenced the late Marvin Edwards, who coined the phrase the syndicate, not Marvin Lewis. I misspoke there. So thanks to his son, who called in and corrected us. Well, this Saturday, you can enjoy a family day at MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art. Nan Kavanaugh is Director of Communications and Marketing at the museum. She's on the line. Hi, Nan.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having me on.
And, we've got a big storm blowing through. Hopefully it'll be all cleared out by Saturday and people can get out and have some fun. What's happening this weekend at MoCA?
So we have our annual Fall Family Day. It is from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. with live music and fun activities for the whole family to enjoy. We have, Mal Jones with the Lyricist Live is going to be performing along with DJ Energy. We are partnering with the Jacksonville Zoo and the Art League of Jacksonville and providing some great, fun, creative activities for kids to enjoy. And it's just going to be a wonderful opportunity for families to get out of the house and enjoy some creative time together.
Now, we are still in the middle of a pandemic and cases are climbing. So how will this be done safely?
Thank you for asking. We are dedicated to following CDC guidelines. Guests will be required to wear masks and socially distance while they're in the museum. We're limiting capacity for visitors. So we have time slots every hour from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Visitors can register online, and registration is required for one of those time slots. They are for an hour long, and this way people can move freely through the museum, and social distancing should not be a problem at all. And they can register online at mocajacksonville.unfc.edu or on Eventbrite.
Okay. And going beyond the Family Day Saturday, you are returning to normal operating hours this Sunday, but at limited capacity. And you have some new work that you want people to check out. Some new exhibits?
Well, we actually have a really wonderful exhibition that is closing this weekend.
Okay.
Breaking Boundaries, the Vision of Jacqueline B. Holmes. It actually opened in February, and we had to close the museum in March with the rest of the world due to the pandemic. It reopened in August, and it is an exhibition that everyone in the city should see if they haven't yet. Jackie was an extraordinary person here in Jacksonville. She was one of the first nationally recognized businesswomen in the arts, and her company Art Sources worked to build major corporate collections such as Bank of America, AT&T, Sunbank, and the exhibition really captures the essence of this woman. We have these wonderful little vignettes of her home office, her living room. She had a very keen eye for fashion. So we have her jewelry collection on display, as well as some wonderful contemporary art from the various collections that she helped start. So this would be your last chance to see Breaking Boundaries and learn about Jacqueline B. Holmes.
Okay. So people should come out for that. And also your Project Atrium series, right, as people come into the museum, has been successful. And there's an installation going in there as well, correct?
Yeah, so Project Atrium Carl Joe Williams is still in process. So you may see the artist working in there throughout this week as well as next week. The opening of that exhibition is next weekend. And it's a beautiful, vibrant, powerful exhibition, and that includes 16 video installations. And it fills the entire 40-foot high atrium gallery. It's really quite something to experience. So I do hope that when people come through the museum, while it is still in installation mode, so you won't be able to enter the atrium gallery, you will be able to take a peek and see the work in progress, which is really one of the unique things about the Project Atrium project. And it's not often that viewers get the opportunity to see an artwork being created in real time. So definitely check that out when you're in the museum.
All right. And as I said, we are not out of the woods by any means in this pandemic, but institutions like MoCA are making efforts to open up their operations a little more to the public. That will continue to be the case throughout the fourth quarter of this year, correct? That's the plan?
That is the plan. We are dedicated to following CDC guidelines and providing a safe experience for everyone to be able to enjoy the museum. And we also offer a variety of virtual opportunities. Anyone can go online and tour the museum through a 360 virtual tour. You can have it led by a member of our curatorial or education team, or you can view the museum on your own, and it's really fun. You can move from floor to floor, click on individual artworks, and up pops a little bit more detail about the work itself. It's really an interesting experience, and I encourage everyone to enjoy the museum virtually as well.
So check it out this weekend. Nan Kavanaugh, Director of Communications and Marketing at MoCA Jax. Nan, have fun. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
A quick break, and in a moment, all of the great music of the First Coast captured in the sounds of the new compilation, Audio Void. We'll speak with Void Live editor Matt Shaw after this. Keep listening.
Congaree and Penn, dedicated to agriculture and culinary endeavors, offering field-to-fork dining and outdoor experiences on over 300 acres. Sip, dine, explore. Information at congareeandpenn.com.
The Florida Times Union, a trusted name in local news, weather, and sports for over 150 years, continued to support local journalism. Jacksonville.com for more information on digital and print subscriptions.
I'm Robin Young. News that we might be getting close to an effective vaccine is tempered by the sharply rising numbers of infections. We'll speak with Pulitzer Prize-winning science writer and pandemic expert Laurie Garrett. Also, we'll convene a climate change roundtable next time, Here and Now.
Today at 2 on WJCT News 89.9.
On the next Fresh Air, journalist Garrett Graff talks about what President Trump might do in the remaining days of his presidency. Graff says the transition period might be the start of the wildest chapter of an already controversial presidency. Graff directs the Aspen Institute's Cybersecurity and Technology program. Join us.
Today at noon on WJCT News 89.9.
Join us for a post-election walk in the hills close to Wisconsin's border, where there's space to take in more than just the view.
What's more important to me than policies is the reality. Nobody can agree on what's a fact anymore.
New reporting from our Across America project, plus the latest from President-elect Joe Biden and his transition team, next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, here is one way to fill the void in your life right about now. Take a listen to the beautiful noise of North Florida. Void editor Matt Shaw is on the line with more about this new project. It's called Audio Void. Hey, Matt, good morning.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on the show. So this is what you call a feel-good fall playlist and all local artists. Tell us how you put it together.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I was thinking when I was putting it together, fall is in the air, Melissa, or it would be if there weren't a tropical storm bearing down on us today.
Yes.
But so this is typically a time, like in Northeast Florida, I would really look forward to opening the windows. I know other people do, and let some natural air in. And after a tumultuous 6 to 8 months, I think that's something to look forward to doing. With that in mind, I wanted to put together a playlist of local tunes that I think are perfect for, either rolling down your car windows or opening up the windows in your house, kind of turning your brain off and just enjoying some really pleasant, locally made noise.
Yeah. Now let's begin with Hensley. You've been following them for a couple of years. Tell us about Hensley.
Yeah. So the thing with Hensley, there's this prevailing narrative that kids aren't playing guitars and starting bands anymore, but Hensley is a quintet from the Beaches area. All the band members are in their late teens or early 20s, and they make kind of like jangly, upbeat indie rock with guitars, bass, and drums. And they have a song called So Soon that I want to listen to. It comes from a recently released EP, and I think it's really emblematic of the band's sound. So let's take a listen to that.
Searching for meaning in you. Seems like neither of us has a clue.
Nice. Yeah, that's Hensley. All right.
Yeah, it opens with like a rattly guitar salvo. Lead vocalist Kendall Mason there. She's got kind of a jazzy voice, and it goes over some jazzy chords. And we didn't get to the chorus, but it's a really charming and infectious chorus, so I'd encourage everybody to check them out.
Okay, so that's Hensley. Next up is Lost Club. Tell us about Lost Club.
Lost Club is a project by Nick Garcia, who's a local multi-instrumentalist. He's played in bands Weekend Atlas and Dog Apollo, both like pretty popular local bands. And his solo project is Lost Club. I don't know if Melissa, you were a fan of kind of the new sounds of like 80s pop production,
sure,
like synths and electronic drums and stuff like that. But this project by Nick Garcia Lost Love, he plays into some of that retro 80s sound. So I wanted to listen to a song called Easy Love from his new EP.
Yeah, that does have a nice retro feel. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're almost out of
really.
time, but you've got one more
Sure.
cut that you want to have us all listen
Yeah,
to.
I want to make sure we
Giella.
get to Giella. This is their first new track in 3 years since their debut, G Things, which was a very hip-hop forward production. Willie Evans Jr. produced it, but this new song was kind of a departure for them. So I wanted to listen to the song We Don't, which has a nice like R&B feel to it.
What's this us taking me home? We don't even have to. 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 We don't even, no need to read.
Beautiful. So 3 amazing cuts on Audio Void, all local artists, Matt. Great job finding these really nice talents. And how can people listen to this EP? How can they get their hands on this playlist?
The plug. All this music is on Spotify, but if you want to find some links to all this music and some more context about each band or artist and interviews, if you go to voidlive.com, hit the music tab. We've got something with each one of the artists we played this morning, plus lots more all local music on there.
Check it out at Void Live. He's editor Matt Shaw. Thanks for bringing us some music, Matt. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Melissa. This was fun.
And we'll close with Lost Club Easy Love from right here in Duval. Enjoy. And thanks for listening to this show and to all of our guests and callers, along with producer Heather Schatz, director Josh Torres, news director Jessica Palumbo, and digital editor Bill Bortsfield. We'll be back at 9 a.m. tomorrow for our Friday Roundtable. I'm Melissa Ross. Have a great day and stay safe as Ada blows through.
Crying's just par for the course. My head and my heart, they say divorce. Doesn't matter who we should blame. Unless I'm with her, they're all the same.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Law Firm.
I'm Wayne Hogan. It's the #1 killer of